Dr. Jessica Mills stared at the wilting plants in her NASA laboratory's experimental climate chamber, wondering how she'd explain another failed attempt at creating sustainable ecosystems for Mars colonization. Her dark hair was coming loose from its ponytail, and coffee stains decorated her lab coat, a perfect representation of how her day was going. That's when every screen in the facility began flashing red. Dr. Mills to Command Center. Emergency Protocol 7. She almost laughed. Protocol 7 was first contact, clearly someone's idea of a joke. But as she rushed through the corridors, the look on people's faces told her this wasn't a drill. The command center was chaos when she arrived. Military personnel crowded around displays, showing a vessel unlike anything humans had built. It hung above Earth's orbit, its crystalline structure refracting sunlight in impossible patterns. "It's broadcasting on all frequencies," announced Communications Chief Torres. "They're requesting to speak with Earth's scientific leadership." General Roberts turned to Jessica. "You're our lead xenobiologist. Any first impressions?" She studied the ship's organic-looking design. It's either extremely advanced or, she squinted at the readings, or damage. Those patterns in the hull, they're inconsistent, like microfractures. The ship's first transmission came through, and Jessica felt her breath catch. The beings on screen were tall, willowy creatures with iridescent skin that seemed to pulse with light. But what caught her attention wasn't their alien appearance. It was their hands. They were trembling. "Greetings, Earth," the translator processed their musical language. "We are the Xylaxian Diplomatic Corps. We come seeking." There was a pause, and Jessica saw the aliens exchange glances. "We come seeking your protection." The room fell silent. Humanity had prepared for first contact for decades. For threats, for trades, for cultural exchange. Nobody had prepared for aliens asking for help. As lead scientist, Jessica was pushed forward to respond. "We welcome you to Earth. I'm Dr. Jessica Mills. Could you elaborate on the type of protection you're seeking?" The Xylaxian spokesperson's skin rippled with what she would later learn was their expression of deep anxiety. "We represent not just ourselves, but a coalition of refugee species, 50 million displaced individuals from 17 worlds. Our homes." The alien's voice cracked in a way that needed no translation. "Our homes are gone." Jessica noticed something else. The way the aliens held themselves, tense and ready to flee. She'd seen that posture before, in trauma victims, making a decision that would later be credited as the moment that changed human history. She did something very unprofessional and very human. She sat down on the floor. The alien's confusion was evident, but she continued, keeping her voice soft. "You're safe here. Take your time." The Xylaxian spokesperson's posture shifted slightly. You are not what we expected. We studied thousands of civilizations before coming here. Many more advanced, many with more resources. But you, the alien's skin glowed softly. You have something they lack. General Roberts stepped forward. Advanced technology. Military strength. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "No, you have failure." Jessica understood first. "We fail, and we rebuild. Is that why you came? Your species has faced extinction events, plagues, wars, natural disasters. Each time, you not only survive, you help others survive. You take in refugees from other nations, rebuild cities, share resources. The others we approached." The alien skin darkened. "They offered technology, resources, but refused to take in our people. They said mixing populations would be inefficient." Jessica looked at the trembling aliens, then at the failed climate chamber data still clutched in her hands. "Well," she said, standing up, "I suppose we should start discussing logistics. And maybe you can help me figure out why my atmospheric processors keep failing." The Xylaxian skin brightened considerably. "You would still seek our help, even as we come asking for yours." Jessica smiled. "That's kind of our thing. We're pretty good at figuring things out together." She glanced at General Roberts. "With permission, sir, I'd like to show our guests what human hospitality looks like." The general nodded, and Jessica led the aliens out, already making mental notes about atmospheric requirements and cultural integration protocols. Behind her, she heard one Zalaxian whisper to another, "Perhaps we should have come here first." Colonel Mike Davidson wasn't known for his subtlety. 20 years in Special Forces had taught him that sometimes the direct approach was the only approach. So when he burst into the UN General Assembly during the refugee crisis debate, no one who knew him was particularly surprised. "With all due respect," he announced, his voice cutting through the chamber's arguments, "while we're sitting here debating, they're dying." The room erupted in chaos. Security moved toward him, but he held up a data tablet, and a holographic display activated. The images floating above the device silenced everyone. Thousands of refugee ships under attack, their crystalline structures shattering in silent space. "These images are coming in live from the Proxima Centauri sector," he continued, his weathered face grim. "The Thoraxian Empire isn't waiting for our decision." Ambassador Chen from China stood up. "Colonel Davidson, this is a diplomatic proceeding. You cannot simply..." "Can't I?" Davidson touched the tablet again. A new hologram appeared. A Xylaxian family huddled in a failing life pod. "Meet Zyra and her children. Their ship will run out of oxygen in approximately 6 hours. There are thousands more like them." The Xylaxian representative, Vexil, stepped forward, their iridescent skin pulsing with what humans now recognized as distress. "The Colonel speaks truth. We did not want to pressure Earth with the full extent of our emergency." Davidson nodded to the alien. "They didn't tell us everything because they were studying us, watching how we'd react." He swept his gaze across the assembly. "And right now, we're failing their test." "Test?" The French representative scoffed. "We are not subjects of their experiment." "No," Davidson agreed, pulling up more data. "We're their last hope. Show them, Vexel. Show them what your people discovered." The Xylaxian touched their own device, and the chamber filled with thousands of holographic scenes. Humans pulling strangers from burning buildings, setting up refugee camps, rebuilding cities after disasters, sharing food during famines. "We observed 50,000 advanced civilizations," Vexil explained, "all with greater technology, larger populations, more resources, but none showed this instinct for cooperative survival." Davidson advanced through more images. "They watched us after the Indonesian tsunami of 2004, Hurricane Katrina in 2005, the Syrian refugee crisis. Every time humanity faced disaster, they saw something unique. We didn't just solve problems. We connected." The UN Secretary General leaned forward. "Colonel, are you suggesting we ignore proper protocols?" "I'm suggesting we stop pretending this is a normal diplomatic situation." Davidson's voice softened. "Look at your phones, all of you. While we've been debating, ordinary people have already started organizing. My team's been flooded with volunteers. Coastal cities are preparing reception centers. Universities are establishing cynobiology crash courses. Human nature has already decided." He was right. Social media was exploding with offers of help. Pictures showed people clearing out spare rooms, gathering supplies, learning basic Xylaxian phrases. "The Thoraxians don't understand us," Davidson continued. "They think we're primitive because we still feel things deeply, because we can't always control our emotions. But that's exactly why the Xylaxians chose us. We know what it means to be refugees. We know what it means to be afraid." Vexil's skin brightened with hope. "Your species, you feel fear, yet you act anyway. You face uncertainty, yet you welcome strangers. This is what we need. Not just shelter, teaching. We must learn this humanity." Davidson set down his tablet. "The question isn't whether we can handle 50 million refugees. The question is, who are we if we don't try?" The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, from the back, someone began to clap. The applause spread slowly at first, then like wildfire. The Secretary General raised his hands for quiet. "Colonel Davidson, your methods are unorthodox, but your point is made." He turned to Vexale. "Tell your people to begin the evacuation. Earth's doors are open." As Davidson left the chamber, his phone buzzed. A message from Dr. Mills. "Subtle as always, Mike. But you did it. First transport ships are requesting landing coordinates. Hope you're ready for what comes next." He smiled. Ready or not, humanity was about to show the galaxy what Earth hospitality looked like. Captain Emily Walker stood at the edge of the massive Arizona biodome, watching the sunset paint the desert in shades of orange and purple. The structure behind her gleamed like a massive soap bubble, its transparent panels shifting to regulate the various atmospheric needs of its inhabitants. 3 months of construction, and today would be their first major test. "Mom, Kira's family is here." Her 12-year-old daughter, Sophie, came running, her blonde hair bouncing with excitement. Emily turned to see a Zalaxian family approaching, their iridescent skin glowing softly in the desert twilight. The young one, Kira, moved with the characteristic floating grace of her species, but there was something different about her movement, a slight bounce that seemed almost human. "Ambassador Kira," Emily said formally, then broke into a smile as the young alien attempted a very human curtsy. Captain Walker, Kira's parent, Vexna, spoke. "We are the first family unit to test your unusual proposal. Are you certain this is wise?" Emily gestured toward the residential section of the biodome. The traditional approach would be to segregate species by their biological needs. But humans have learned that isolation breeds fear. Integration, however. She led them inside, where dozens of human families were setting up their new homes. The biodome was divided into atmospheric zones, but the living spaces were deliberately mixed. Transparent barriers allowed visual connection even where different species couldn't share air. "But how will we communicate?" Vexna asked, their skin flickering with anxiety. "Our translators are limited." "Watch," Emily said, pointing to where Sophie had already engaged Kira in a game of charades, both girls dissolving into their species' respective versions of laughter. "They're playing." Vexna's confusion was evident. "We have no such concept in our culture." "You do now," Emily smiled. "That's why we paired each refugee family with a human family. We're not just sharing space, we're sharing life." The next few hours proved her point. Despite the language barrier, humans and aliens found ways to connect. A retired music teacher discovered that Zalaxian skin patterns responded to sound waves, creating impromptu light shows. A Meridian family, insectoid beings who communicated through color changes, began a fascinating exchange with a human artist about color theory. But it was dinner time that truly demonstrated the power of Emily's approach. "We've created safe spaces where different species can eat together while maintaining their atmospheric needs," she explained, leading them to the community dining area. Clear barriers separated different atmospheric zones, but the tables were arranged so families could sit across from each other while they ate. Sophie and Kira sat opposite each other, separated by a barrier but sharing the experience. When Kira attempted to mimic Sophie's use of a fork, despite Zalaxians typically absorbing nutrients directly through their skin, Emily saw Vexna's skin pulse with an emotion she hadn't seen before. "That's joy," another Zalaxian, Dr. Lexale, explained quietly. We haven't seen much of that since the evacuation began." Later that evening, as families settled into their new homes, Emily received an urgent message. The Thoraxian Empire had issued a statement condemning Earth's primitive communal living experiment. They claimed it would lead to cultural contamination. Emily watched through the biodome's transparent walls as Sophie taught Kira to play shadow puppets, their shadows merging on the wall despite the barrier between them. In another section, a human engineer was learning mathematical concepts from a Meridian physicist, their equations floating in holographic displays between them. "Cultural contamination," she murmured. "Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs." She composed a brief response to command. Integration project proceeding as planned. First-day observations suggest unprecedented success in cross-species socialization. Requesting permission to proceed with Phase 2. Community education programs. As she sent the message, she heard a sound she'd never expected. A Zylaxian child singing. Kira was attempting to mimic Sophie's bedtime song, her skin glowing in rhythm with the melody. Emily smiled. The Arizona experiment wasn't just working. It was evolving into something entirely new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Humanity's great experiment in interstellar community building had begun. James Cooper hadn't slept properly in years, not since Afghanistan. Maybe that's why he noticed it first. The soft whirring sounds in the refugee quarters at night weren't just machinery. They were movement. Their guests weren't sleeping either. They're suffering from trauma-induced insomnia, he explained to the medical team. Just like human veterans. Dr. Andrews shook her head. We've tried everything in our xenobiology handbook. Their physiology doesn't respond to standard treatments. James stood in the observation room, watching the nocturnal pacing of various species. Then he remembered something from his own recovery. Without explanation, he pulled out his phone and started playing Johnny Cash's Bridge Over Troubled Water. The effect was immediate. A nearby Zylaxian's skin, usually flickering with anxiety, began to pulse steadily with the rhythm. A Meridian child, whose carapace had been cycling through stress colors, settled into a calm blue hue. "Well, I'll be damned," Dr. Andrews whispered. That's how Operation Lullaby began. James gathered a team of musicians, insomniacs, and trauma specialists. They discovered that while each species responded differently to music, they all responded to something. The Zylaxians resonated with classical piano, their skin lights synchronizing with the melodies. The Meridians preferred deep bass lines that vibrated through their exoskeletons. The gaseous Aetherian young were particularly fond of wind instruments, their vapor forms swirling in harmony with the notes. But the real breakthrough came accidentally, during one of their nightly sessions. A young Zylaxian named Lexbug began emanating a series of harmonic pulses, their species' natural form of communication. James, half asleep at his guitar, started improvising along with the alien's rhythm. Soon, a Meridian joined in, clicking their mandibles in a complementary pattern. "Record this," James ordered, and for the next hour, they captured the first truly interstellar jam session in human history. The recording spread through the refugee community like wildfire. Species that had been too traumatized to interact began seeking each other out, adding their own sounds to the growing symphony. The Aetherians contributed atmospheric harmonics that made human bones vibrate. The crystalline quartz folk created impossible echoes with their resonating bodies. One evening, as James walked through the compound, he heard something that made him stop dead in his tracks. A human children's choir was teaching "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" to a group of alien youngsters. Each species interpreted the melody through their own biological means: light, color, vibration, resonance, creating a performance that defied traditional music, but touched something universal. "You've weaponized empathy," Colonel Davidson said during his inspection visit. "The Thoraxians won't know what to make of this." James watched as a traumatized Meridian warrior, who hadn't emerged from their quarters in weeks, slowly joined a drum circle. That's because they don't understand what music really is. It's not just sound. It's shared experience. The project expanded. They built specialized amphitheaters that could accommodate multiple atmospheric requirements while allowing sound to travel through carefully designed channels. Musicians from Earth began arriving, eager to collaborate with alien artists. The New York Philharmonic performed the first multi-species symphony, their music complemented by Zylaxian light patterns and Aetherian harmonics. But James's favorite moment came late one night, when he found Lexva's youngest child humming Bridge Over Troubled Water while comforting a crying human baby. The alien's skin lights pulsed in perfect rhythm with Cash's melody, and the baby slowly drifted to sleep. "You've done something extraordinary here," Dr. Andrews told him, reviewing the latest sleep study data. Sleep patterns have improved across all species by 73%. Trauma responses are down. Community integration is up. James just nodded, picking out a quiet tune on his guitar. Around him, the night was filled with the sounds of dozens of species learning to heal together, one note at a time. "Music doesn't solve everything," he said finally, "but it reminds us we're not alone in the dark." Above them, the stars twinkled in rhythm with the greatest concert the galaxy had ever known, the sound of different species learning to harmonize together. Amber Rodriguez was doing her calculus homework when she first noticed the anomaly. Her laptop's cursor moved slightly, just a pixel to the left, but it was enough. 6 years of competitive hacking had taught her to trust her instincts. "Hey, LIC," she called out to her AI assistant. "Run a trace on that packet sniff we caught." Her bedroom wall lit up with cascading data streams. At 16, she'd already built one of the most sophisticated home security systems in Denver. Being the daughter of 2 refugee integration specialists meant she had access to some interesting alien tech and a lot of time alone to experiment. "Multiple intrusion attempts detected," Alice reported. "Origin appears to be non-terrestrial." Amber's fingers flew across her holographic keyboard. "Show me the pattern." The attack was elegant. Too elegant. Perfect, mathematical precision in every line of code. No human would write something so sterile. "Got you," she whispered, recognizing the signature. "Thoraxian Eye." She opened a secure channel to the Earth Defense Network. "EDN, this is Chaos Node 7. We've got incoming." Colonel Davidson's face appeared on her screen. "Report, Ms. Rodriguez. They're testing our defenses, sir, but they're doing it wrong." She pushed her blue-streaked hair back, grinning. "They don't understand how human networks actually work." "Explain." Amber pulled up 2 code streams. "See this. Thoraxian programming is pure logic. Every function perfectly optimized. But human networks are messy. We've got legacy systems running on coffee machines, hospitals using different operating systems, and don't get me started on Windows updates." Davidson's eyes widened as he understood. "Our chaos is our strength." "Exactly. Their AI can't predict what it can't understand. And humans," she cracked her knuckles, "we're really good at being unpredictable." Over the next hour, Amber coordinated with other young hackers around the globe. The Thoraxian AI probed Earth's defenses with increasing frustration, unable to find patterns in the seemingly random human responses. "They don't get it," Amber explained to her alien friend Kira, who was watching with fascination. "Human networks evolved like we did. Messy, redundant, adaptable. We didn't design them to be perfect. We designed them to survive." Then the Thoraxians launched their main attack. Massive data streams targeted Earth's major systems, power grids, communication networks, defense installations, but they weren't ready for what Amber called chaos programming. "Release the memes," she commanded, and thousands of young hackers responded. They flooded Thoraxian channels with cat videos, rickrolls, and deliberately corrupted TikTok dances. The enemy AI, programmed to analyze and counteract meaningful data, crashed trying to find patterns in human internet culture. "Their systems are too rigid," Amber explained to the EDN Council. "They expect everything to follow logical rules. But humans," she projected a visualization of Earth's network activity, a beautiful, chaotic dance of interconnected systems. "We thrive in chaos." The Thoraxian cyber attack failed spectacularly. Their sophisticated AI, confronted with the digital equivalent of a food fight, suffered the alien version of a nervous breakdown. In the aftermath, Amber received an urgent message from the Xylaxian High Council. They wanted to learn about chaos programming. She logged into the video call to find not just Xylaxian engineers, but representatives from every refugee species. "Teach us," they said, "how to think like humans." Amber looked around her room. at the tangled wires, the half-finished projects, the sticky notes with brilliant ideas scrawled at 3 a.m. She thought about how her parents' refugee integration work had influenced her understanding of systems, how growing up alongside alien children had taught her to see patterns others missed. "First lesson," she said, pulling up her code editor. "Forget everything you know about perfect solutions. Sometimes the best defense is a little bit of chaos." As she began teaching alien engineers about the beauty of imperfect systems, her phone buzzed with a text from Colonel Davidson. "The Thoraxians are requesting a ceasefire. Apparently, their AI is refusing to engage with Earth's networks. It's calling us illogically effective." Amber smiled. In a galaxy of perfect systems, humanity's greatest weapon turned out to be their beautiful, chaotic nature. "Ready for lesson 2? She asked her alien students. "Let me tell you about something we call rubber duck debugging." Lieutenant John Harrison never expected his family's Kansas wheat farm would become a military installation. Yet here he was, teaching a Zalaxian how to drive a combine harvester, while Meridian defense specialists installed plasma cannons in his barn. "The beauty of it," he explained to General Roberts during inspection, "is that no one expects a farm to be a fortress." The general watched as human farmers and alien refugees worked side by side, integrating advanced technology with agricultural equipment. "The Thoraxians won't understand this strategy at all." "That's the point, sir." John gestured to where his father was showing a group of Aetherians how to predict weather patterns using both their natural sensitivity to atmospheric changes and generations of farming knowledge. "They're looking for military bases. We're giving them amber waves of grain." Operation Heartland, as it became known, transformed America's farmland into an invisible defense network. Grain silos concealed early warning systems. Irrigation pipelines doubled as emergency transport tubes. Tractors were modified with alien tech to switch from harvesting corn to deploying energy shields. The first test came sooner than expected. Thoraxian scouts breached Earth's atmosphere over the Midwest, expecting to find vulnerable agricultural zones. Instead, they encountered what John called the Kansas Gambit. "Now," John commanded as the alien ships approached. Across the landscape, farmers activated their equipment. Combine harvesters projected holographic fields of grain, masking the movement of ground forces. Irrigation sprinklers released clouds of microscopic drones developed by Meridian engineers. The Thoraxian ships, programmed to target military installations, found their sensors confused by the mixture of organic and technological signatures. They couldn't distinguish between a wheat field and a weapons array, because in many cases, they were the same thing. "They're slowing down," reported Sarah, John's wife, from her position in the converted chicken coop that now served as a tactical command center. "The AI can't process what it's seeing." John smiled. "Release the scarecrows." Across the fields, harmless-looking scarecrows suddenly activated, revealing themselves as autonomous defense platforms designed by Zalaxian scientists. But unlike typical alien technology, these were deliberately imperfect, programmed with the random patterns of bird movement that actual scarecrows would encounter. The Thoraxian ships, attempting to establish targeting locks, found themselves engaged by what appeared to be malfunctioning farm equipment and erratically moving field decorations. Their rigid combat protocols couldn't adapt to hardware that seemed to operate on the principles of both advanced physics and folksy human wisdom. "My grandfather always said," John told the confused alien allies watching the battle unfold, "that the best way to protect something is to make it look like it's not worth protecting." The engagement lasted less than an hour. The Thoraxian scouts retreated, their systems overwhelmed by what their reports would later describe as agricultural chaos. They never detected the actual defensive capabilities hidden throughout the farmland. They were too busy trying to explain why a flock of what appeared to be mechanical crows was executing perfect evasive maneuvers while singing "Old MacDonald Had a Farm." In the aftermath, as human farmers and alien refugees celebrated together in the Harrisons' converted barn, John received a communication from Thoraxian Command. They were requesting clarification on whether Earth's agricultural zones should be classified as civilian or military installations. "Tell them," John said, watching his 10-year-old daughter teach a young Meridian how to make a daisy chain while sitting on top of a tractor that could generate an antimatter field, "that they should classify us as farmers. Nothing more, nothing less." That evening, as the sun set over the wheat fields, John stood with representatives from various species, all admiring the view. "We don't understand," a Xylaxian commander admitted. "Your defenses are simultaneously primitive and advanced, organized and chaotic." John picked up a handful of soil, letting it run through his fingers. "That's because we learned our tactics from the land itself. Nature doesn't waste energy looking perfect. It just grows, adapts, and survives." He looked out over his farm, where the most advanced technology in the galaxy was being hidden by the simple wisdom of generations of farmers. "Sometimes," he said, "the best way to fight the future is to remember your roots." Dr. Rachel Anderson had spent years studying gravity. She understood its quirks, its mysteries, its stubborn refusal to fully reconcile with quantum mechanics. But right now, she was trying to explain to a room full of skeptical generals why Earth's primitive gravitational field might be their greatest weapon. "The Thoraxians rely on artificial gravity," she explained, pacing before the holographic display. "Their ships, their weapons, even their biology has adapted to controlled gravitational environments. But Earth," she paused, grinning, "Earth is gloriously messy." The display showed Earth's gravitational field, not the simplified version from textbooks, but the real thing. Mountains, ocean trenches, and mineral deposits all created subtle variations in the planet's gravitational pull. "They're coming," Colonel Davidson interrupted, rushing into the briefing room. "Massive fleet, using some kind of gravity drive we've never seen before." Rachel's eyes lit up. "Perfect. Tell the farmers to harvest early. I need those fields empty." Over the next 24 hours, she coordinated with alien refugees and Earth scientists to prepare what she called gravity traps. The plan was either brilliant or insane, possibly both. "Think about it," she explained to her team. "Their ships use gravity drives, but they've only ever encountered artificially generated gravity fields. They've never had to navigate a natural gravity well as complex as Earth's. They worked through the night, installing gravimetric sensors designed by Xylaxian engineers across Kansas's empty fields. Meridian mathematicians calculated precise trajectories based on Earth's natural gravitational anomalies. Aetherian energy specialists modified their atmospheric harmonics to amplify gravitational waves. When the Thoraxian fleet arrived, they encountered something their advanced AI couldn't comprehend: a planet using its own natural flaws as a weapon. "Begin Operation Newton's Revenge," Rachel commanded. Across the American heartland, farmers activated the gravimetric sensors. Each one amplified Earth's natural gravitational fluctuations, creating a chaotic web of gravitational eddies and flows. The Thoraxian ships, designed for the precision of artificial gravity, began to wobble. "They're trying to compensate," reported a Xylaxian observer. "Their gravity drives are increasing power." Rachel smiled. "That's exactly what we wanted. Now, show them what Earth's gravity can really do." The trap was sprung. As the Thoraxian ships powered up their gravity drives, they unwittingly contributed to the very force that was disrupting them. Each attempt to stabilize only made Earth's gravitational field more chaotic. Ships designed for mathematical precision found themselves caught in a gravitational dance choreographed by nature itself. "It's like trying to swim in a whirlpool," Rachel explained to the astonished alien allies. "The harder they fight it, the stronger it gets." The Thoraxian fleet, for the first time in their history, was forced to retreat from what their reports would call gravitational warfare beyond our current understanding. They never realized that Earth's defense wasn't advanced at all. It was precisely the opposite. In the aftermath, as Rachel reviewed the data with a team of human and alien scientists, she discovered something unexpected. The gravitational disruption had created new patterns, new ways of understanding how gravity worked at a fundamental level. "We didn't just defend Earth," she explained to the Scientific Council. "We accidentally advanced our understanding of physics by about a century." The Zylaxian scientists were particularly fascinated. "Our civilization spent millennia trying to perfect artificial gravity," their chief physicist admitted. "We never thought to study how natural gravity behaves in complex systems." Rachel watched as human and alien scientists pored over the data together, each bringing their own perspective to this new understanding of one of the universe's fundamental forces. "Sometimes," she said, "the most advanced solution is to embrace what we haven't mastered yet." Later that evening, she stood in an empty Kansas field, feeling the subtle pull of Earth's gravity. Her phone buzzed with a message from Colonel Davidson. "The Thoraxians are requesting a scientific exchange. Apparently, they want to learn about primitive gravitational physics." Rachel laughed, looking up at the stars. In trying to defend Earth, they'd reminded the galaxy that nature's imperfections were worth studying, not conquering. "Sir Isaac Newton," she murmured, "I think you'd be proud of us today." Linda Martinez stood in the playground of the New Horizons School in Denver, watching children from 17 different species play together. After 30 years of teaching elementary school, she thought nothing could surprise her anymore. She was wonderfully wrong. Ms. Martinez called out Tommy, a human third grader, floating in midair. "Kira's teaching us Zylaxian anti-gravity games." Nearby, a young Meridian was showing human children how to create rainbow patterns with their art supplies, while Aetherian youngsters taught others how to feel sound waves through their entire bodies. The playground equipment, designed by both human and alien engineers, adapted to each species' unique needs. "The Thoraxian observers are here," whispered her assistant, gesturing toward a group of stern-looking, cybernetically enhanced beings at the school's entrance. Linda straightened her silver-streaked hair and walked over to greet them. "Welcome to New Horizons. I'm Principal Martinez. Would you like to see our classrooms?" The Thoraxian leader, Commander Vex, seemed suspicious. "We were informed this facility is Earth's most advanced defense installation." Linda couldn't help but laugh. "In a way, it is. Come, let me show you why." She led them through the school, where every classroom told a story of integration. In mathematics, human children learned multidimensional calculations from Zylaxian teachers, while alien students discovered the beauty of Earth's primitive geometry. Science classes combined advanced alien understanding with human creativity and curiosity. "But how do you maintain order?" Commander Vex asked, watching a seemingly chaotic exchange of ideas and cultures. "We don't try to," Linda explained. "We guide them, but we let them learn from each other. Watch." In the art room, a young Thoraxian refugee, one of the few who had escaped the Empire, was teaching human students about energy sculpture. But instead of following the rigid traditional forms, the children were creating wild emotional pieces that pulsed with both technology and heart. "This is dangerous," Commander Vex protested. "You're contaminating pure cultural forms with disorder." "We call it growth," Linda corrected gently. "Look there." In the music room, James Cooper was leading an interspecies choir. The song they were practicing was Earth's first true xenoharmonic composition, human voices blending with Zylaxian light patterns, meridian color changes, and Aetherian atmospheric harmonics. And there, she pointed to the library, where Dr. Jessica Mills was teaching xenobiology. The students, human and alien alike, were not just learning about different species, they were learning from each other, sharing personal experiences that no textbook could capture. But the most important lesson, Linda said, leading them back to the playground, happens out here. They watched as a human girl fell and scraped her knee. Before any adult could react, 3 different species of children rushed to help, one providing light for healing, another offering emotional support through color changes, and a third using their natural abilities to ease the pain. "This," Linda explained, "is what your empire fears most. Not our weapons, not our chaos, not even our unpredictability. You fear this simple truth, that children, given the chance, will learn to care for each other regardless of species. Commander Vex was silent for a long moment, watching the natural cooperation and care unfold before them. Finally, they spoke. Our analysis suggested Earth's educational facilities were preparing for war. Linda smiled. We're waging war on fear, on isolation, on the idea that different species can't live together and grow together. She gestured to the playground. And as you can see, we're winning. That evening, as Linda prepared to leave, she received an unexpected message. The Thoraxian Empire was requesting to send teachers to study Earth's educational methods. They claimed it was for strategic analysis, but she knew better. She looked out at the playground one last time, where the afternoon sun caught the shimmer of Zalaxian children playing hopscotch, while human kids learned to navigate in zero gravity, and Viridian youngsters taught others to paint with light. This, she whispered, is how you change a galaxy. Not with weapons or warfare, but with playground games and scraped knees, and the simple courage to let children show us a better way. The future of the galaxy was being built, one lesson at a time, in a schoolyard in Denver, Colorado. The end.